What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Crazy for KV's RC. Welcome back to the next episode of the RC Garage Tour. We're in the double digits. We're in episode 10. Last episode you guys saw was that cliffhanger, VS410 chassis, 3-gear, kind of a hodgepodge of parts, mostly Vanquish. Real nice truck, really capable. First time driving it, and I really like it. So we're moving right along. Couple days left till Christmas. Hopefully you got all your shopping done. Hopefully you're gonna get some time off, enjoy some time, get outside, enjoy the hobby, work on some builds if it's cold. Hopefully you got a place to paint if you need to paint some bodies. You guys already saw from the thumbnail. So this week we are talking about my Capra. That's how I distinguish it from the other one is the 4-wheel steer Capra. This is just the Capra. Had this quite a bit longer than the 4-wheel steer. I've driven it more than a few times, and it does really well. It's kind of a tank for a Capra. It's pretty heavy, but we'll get into some of the parts and what I got going on. So my original game plan with this, you guys may be familiar with my ongoing build of that RC Speedy C3. I have built based around a Vanquish Phoenix portal. I originally bought this Capra and most of these parts to go into an RC Speedy C2. Well, he discontinued that chassis. At the time, I was devastated. Worst news I'd ever heard. No, just obviously kidding. But I was pretty bummed. Had the money set aside for the chassis. Was ready to wait and discontinued it. But little did I know he was working on the C3, and I like the C3 way more than I like the C2. So I'm glad I didn't pull the trigger a few days prior. Let's just start with the obvious. I mean, it's obvious. It's black and silver. Go Raiders. You guys have probably seen the Raiders flag or peaks of it back there above my computer. Yeah, actually, this wasn't intended to be a Raiders theme, but I am a big fan of silver, gray, and black. It's just, those simple colors that go with everything. Not too flashy. But I do like little pops of color here and there in some different trucks. So in regards to the silver, you guys are probably noticing these carbon fiber panels. These are from Vidavon. You can get them on eBay. I also know that Joe over at Exocaged RC YouTube channel, he is a Vidavon dealer, and I think as we speak, he's kind of spinning up his website, and he's going to be selling some Vidavon things on there. So you kind of have a couple different options. You could support another YouTuber, or you could go straight to eBay and right off Vidavon. These carbon fiber panels are really, really nice. They're really lightweight. They look great. They've been durable so far. They scratch up a little bit, but it's woven carbon fiber, not forged. Pretty thick, not too thin, and it's got a nice like sealant or some sort of coating on it. It gives it a nice glossy finish and no splinters or anything like that. So we're just going to start with kind of the foundation of the truck and kind of expand from the heart and soul of it. So started out as a Capra kit. Like I said, bought for that C2 chassis. Didn't work out, so I kind of just wanted to build an all frills Capra. Kind of the opposite of some of my other trucks, and kind of leaning towards some of these other ones you guys are going to be seeing coming up, as well as the C3. So bought the Capra kit, and first Capra I ever owned, and I do know one of the biggest complaints with the Capra is the gearing. Even though they run portals, the gear ratio is a little bit high. I don't remember exactly what they are, but typically you want your final gear reduction to be kind of in that 40 to 50, and you can hit that sweet spot using pinion spur gear ratios, but it's pretty tough to do. Even with the 9-tooth on the Capra transmission, some people have problems with low speed resolution, and it's just a little bit fast. It's almost like a rock bouncer type speed of a transmission. It's kind of like trying to crawl your rift. Not quite that bad, but for what this is intended to be, like a rock buggy, you really want it to be really slow, really controlled. I don't need any speed out of this, so you guys will be seeing my rift in the future, and that's, if I want to do any like speed stuff in the rocks, that's definitely what I'm going to go to. So in terms of transmission, I opted for a Vanquish 3-gear. I had already put a 3-gear, assembled one, kind of fell in love with it when I put in the cliffhanger you guys saw in episode 9, And using that 3 gear, it really helps you kind of achieve that final gear ratio. And that 3 gear does come in most of your SCX 10.2s. I know there's some kits that it doesn't come in, or maybe it's all kits. I know there's a kit transmission you can find online. So in terms of transmission, I actually opted to not include the dig. It does cost extra, that Hertz V2 dig for the 3 gear, like I have in that Cliffhanger. Decided I didn't really need it, and I knew everything was going to be really tight in this Capra as it was. I know you can get them in there, but it's kind of a pain to get everything in there as it is. So save the money, save the weight on the servo and the extra weight of the dig, and just left it out. So in terms of that transmission conversion from that Capra tranny to this 3 gear, if you want to do that, you will need a different skid plate. Standard Capra skid plate isn't set up to run a 3 gear. And on this and my 4-wheel steer Capra, I probably failed to mention it in that video, but I'm running a Spare Time Hobbies 3 gear Capra skid plate. Pretty easy, no instructions needed. So hooked up to that transmission, we have a Holmes Hobby Polar Pro 2700 stubby. And that shorter can is super beneficial in a truck like this where space is at a premium, especially if you want to run that interior. If you're willing to forego the interior on your Capra, it will make things a lot easier, but it does take away from the look a little bit. I'm not crazy about scale looks. I don't have any figures, not yet at least. I don't have any like hard body class 1 setups, but it is nice when you don't immediately see all the electronics just sitting in there inside the cage. Powering that stubby 2700 Polar Pro, we've got a Mamba X stuffed in there. We have the fan on it. It's mounted vertically on the back of the inside of the cage. I've got my FlySky Noble NB4 hooked up to this. I've got one of their little compact 4-channel receivers in that fuel cell back there. And for the steering servo, I have an MKS HBL 550 servo. I'll post the specs down below. Don't remember them offhand, but it's a really great servo as far as power, torque. The speed's really good, but I will say it is noisy. It just has a hum to it, and for what you pay, the price fluctuates. I'm not going to mention the price, but I know it was well over $100. You know, it's a brushless steel case, steel gear servo, and maybe it's going to be super durable. We'll see long term, but I just kind of wanted to experiment with something different than ProTech or Reefs, and wasn't super happy with the choice. If you guys have MKS servos and have different experiences, let me know. Maybe I just got a bad egg. It is what it is. We'll keep running it, but it is a little bit noisy, and you guys will hear that in the running footage most likely. So moving outward from kind of the inside the cage, we also have Incision steel drive shafts. Love those drive shafts. You guys have seen them multiple times already. Additionally, I did go with Vanquish all stainless links on this. Just replaced them, replaced all the Capra links. They sell them in a kit, and you guys will notice it is sitting on Vanquish Capra axles. So like I said, pretty much all of this was bought for that C2. So this truck would have looked very similar to how my C3 is turning out. You know, portals on Vanquish axles, nice Vanquish wheels, good tires, but yeah, the C2 didn't work out, so we're moving on with the C3, and I also have this awesome Capra that's super capable and just kind of walks through any terrain I have nearby. One of the other cons of the Capra, and you see it even on the new UTB 18, that 1/18th scale Capra, but the con I'm talking about with all Capras is they just sit up really high. They kind of look kind of toy grade. If you walk through any of the big box stores and kind of go through their toy section, you'll see some trucks similar, you know, throughout the year that kind of remind you of that small Capra especially, and they just sit up really high. The CG is kind of unnecessary. It's not a monster truck. It doesn't need to sit up that high. You're still going to get articulation even without it sitting up high. I actually bit into that early on. I bought a TRX4 Bronco, the one I'm building into that pulling truck, and I bought the lift kit for it. Threw 2.2s on it, big meaty tires, and the lift kit, and it did terrible. It just rolled over all the time. I really don't recommend ever raising your CG unless it's just kind of for a specific build. If it's a mud truck or it's just going to be more for show, then that's great. But if you're going to do some, you know, crawling on some real rock, or even just through some hilly trails, I definitely recommend trying to lower that CG, bring that ride height down, especially if you don't have to sacrifice too much articulation to do that. So I ended up opting for 90 millimeter S8E shocks, the same shocks that come on the straight axle Phoenix. So lost about 10 millimeters worth of shock body and roughly 10 millimeters of suspension travel, but I'm okay with that. It still has plenty. I'll hit a Flex Friday shot for you guys here so I can prove it to you, but the truck pretty much is performing almost exactly how I would want it. I have super soft shocks in here, and yeah, it moves around great. I think I have 40, maybe 50 weight, because there's not a lot of sprung weight on a Capra, especially with the plastic cage. But I know you guys are probably dying to see this thing run. It's a fun truck, love driving it. I like to take this one out quite a bit. That's why it's, kind of up there. It's almost on the podium, but not quite. It's actually sitting in 4th place. Got 13 crawlers total that are finished. Got a few in the works, but so this one's sitting at number 10 out of 13, 4th highest. But yeah, the last thing I'll talk about is the wheel and tire setup. So this is sitting on Vanquish Method 105s in clear anodize. Got full scale hardware on this. Running those stainless brake weights up front just to give it a little extra forward weight bias. And wrapped around those Method 105s, I have Crawl Innovation Lil Nova 4.75 foams. They're dual stage, so you get a closed cell inner, open cell outer. Not running the tuning ring on these, so you get a little more gap between the tire and the outer foam. And I think I'm running these in medium, if I remember right. This truck's 6.5 pounds, so a little on the light side probably for medium. I could probably switch over to soft, but the truck does fine. No complaints out of its performance, so no need to change anything. And for tires, I'm running Voodoo KLR M's, so very aggressive, very meaty tires. They do really good where I'm at. But that's all I have here on the bench. Let's go outside, let's run it a little bit. You guys can check it out, and I'll see you guys there. All right, guys, we're going to try to hit some lines with the Capra. Already seen it on the bench, went pretty in depth on everything that went into this build. Very capable truck, does very well. It's a Capra. Stock Capras do well, especially once you give them a little bit of weight up front and wheels, tires, and if you can get a smooth brushless system in there, they do extremely well. You guys are hearing this voiceover style because Castle graced us with the really bad Castle whine during this recording. Did not realize how loud this truck is, but it's quite obnoxious, and that MKS servo humming did not help at all either. Even when I was sitting idle, you can hear it kind of humming and trying to work. It's a strong servo, so it really shouldn't be having to work too much to hold the wheels where they're at, but it seems that it does. So you guys have already become pretty familiar with this terrain. For a truck like this, really nothing that's going to push it too much, but you can kind of hit some of the most challenging lines, some of those big overhangs, real steep inclines, some pretty gnarly side hills, and try to push this truck to its best limit that you can here in eastern Georgia. We're going to transition over to different little spot here, and there's a real tough line that I am interested in trying to check out. None of my other trucks could really even take a crack at it. It's right here. Trying to get my passenger front kind of hooked on that little ledge you can see, and trying to ride that up, and it just doesn't want to stay. My driver rear is kind of wants to sit down in that dip, and it just kind of kept me from getting pulled up at all. There you saw these carbon fiber panels take a hit there. No major damage at all. They took a pretty good bump there on the roof, but nothing broken, no harm, no foul. Just can't quite get it hooked up at the top. This day I'd try to run this line a couple of times, so being a little bit persistent, trying to see if I can make it work. You can see I'm just kind of bouncing, not really gaining any ground. Move over, kind of show you just how steep that is. Obviously not 90. People hit way crazier lines, but it is pretty steep. So here we go. We tucked our tail between our legs and had to take the cheater way around. See me just kind of repositioning, trying to see how I want to get up this. Just no real bite right there with the tires. And pretty much every tire will have that at some point. It'll have some certain line or one little spot that it doesn't really want to grab. But I do love the way these handle out here, and they actually perform pretty well. All right, guys, thanks for checking out the Capra. Having fun. This is a really fun truck. We're getting into the ones that I love to drive. Try to drive every time I come out. If I'm gonna bring 4 or 5 trucks, I'm bringing these next few that you're gonna see, besides for the last one. It only gets driven on special occasions. But thanks for watching. I'll check you guys next time. Thanks for checking out Crazy for KV's RC and making it to the end of the video. If you like what you saw, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell. Feel free to leave a comment down below. Let me know if there's something you'd like to see me do or do differently. Open to feedback. Check me out on Instagram. That's crazyforkvs_RC. Link down below as well. And first episode of the podcast is live, and you can find that on Spotify or Anchor FM. Links in the description. Thanks again, and I'll see you guys next time.